ready to unlock like a secret level of fluency.
Sounds intriguing.
Today's deep dive, it's all about phrasal verbs.
Ah, yes. Those tricky combinations.
They can make your English sound so natural.
Or leave you feeling lost. Right?
Exactly. Don't worry, we've got you.
We do. That's great.
Yeah, we're diving into a cool list of common ones, you know.
Definitions, examples.
Shebang. I like it, the whole shebang.
But here's the thing. We're not just going to define them. We're going to uncover the WHY.
Ooh, getting deep.
And with us to do that is, well, you're like a phrasal verb whisperer.
Well, I'll try my best.
So help me kick this off. Why are these things so important? I mean, why not just use a regular verb? What's the magic of adding a little word like up or off?
It's like this, sometimes a regular verb does the job, but phrasal verbs, they add this layer of, well, personality to your English, you know what I mean?
They can make things more casual, more vivid. Think about it. Clean versus clean up. Clean is pretty basic, right? But clean up suggests more action, maybe a bit of chaos beforehand.
Okay, I see what you mean. Cleanup does feel more active, more, well, story-like.
Yes. And our list, it's packed with examples just like that.
Wow, so it's not just about learning new words, it's like adding a whole new dimension to your English.
Exactly. And did you know many phrasal verbs have roots in Old English? Back then, word order was way more flexible, and these little prepositions could, well, pop up all over the place.
Wow, so those little prepositions are like linguistic time capsules. So we've got history, we've got storytelling, but honestly, they still trip me up sometimes. Why are phrasal verbs so hard to, like, pin down?
It's the context. That's the tricky part. You see, the same phrasal verb can have a bunch of meanings depending on, well, how it's used.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, take off. Your plane can take off. You can take off your hat. Heck, you can even take off work for a vacation.
Whoa, okay. That's a perfect example. It's like each phrasal verb is this like multi-tool with a bunch of different settings, but how do we know which setting to use?
That's where, well, paying attention to how native speakers use them comes in. Think of it like learning a dance move. You watch, you imitate, you practice, and eventually you make it your own.
I love that analogy. And speaking of practice, our list has all these great example sentences. It's like having a phrasal verb cheat sheet.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's actually dive into some examples. This one stood out to me. Whip up. You can whip up a meal, whip up an outfit. You can even whip up a plan. What's the common thread here?
It's all about speed and ease. It's like saying, I made this effortlessly, no big deal.
Whoa.
It's interesting, right? Because the meaning goes beyond just making something. It's about the how.
Oh, right. Like I could say, I made dinner, but I whipped up dinner. Sounds so much more casual, almost playful.
Exactly. That's why phrasal verbs are so powerful. They let you like fine-tune your tone and express yourself in a way that regular verbs just, they can't match.
So I'm starting to see why mastering these things is like leveling up your English. But here's a question. Is there like a trick to remembering which preposition goes with which verb? Because honestly, it feels random sometimes.
Well, there's no magic formula, but there are patterns you can look for. For example, some prepositions, they often indicate direction. Think about up, get up, stand up, look up. They all involve an upward movement, you know?
Huh, interesting.
Whether it's physical or metaphorical.
Oh, that is interesting. So it's not just about memorizing random pairings. It's about understanding the underlying logic, like look up. In the sense of finding information, it's like you're mentally looking upwards towards knowledge.
Exactly. You're getting it. And sometimes the meaning is more idiomatic. It's like a secret code you just have to learn through exposure.
No, give up. Logically, you'd think, give down would be the opposite of give up, but that's not how it works.
Right. That's a great example of how phrasal verbs can be, well, tricky. They don't always follow the rules of logic, but that's also what makes them so interesting and expressive.
I'm starting to appreciate the challenge. It's like solving a linguistic puzzle. And, our list actually has a bunch of phrasal verbs that come in pairs. We've got turn on and turn off, put on and take off.
Those pairs can be super helpful for learning, you're right. It's like having a built-in antonym. And sometimes, even if you don't know the exact meaning of one phrasal verb in a pair, you can kind of guess it based on, well, its opposite.
Okay, let's test that theory. If log in means to enter a computer system, what would be the opposite?
Log out, of course. It's like closing the door behind you in the digital world.
Ah, I see. I'm getting the hang of this. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the challenges, even some memory tricks. But I think the most important thing is how we can actually use these things in, real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the concept, but it's another to actually use phrasal verbs confidently in conversation.
Okay, so what's the secret? Should we be like walking around with this list, trying to shoehorn in phrasal verbs wherever we can?
That's actually a common mistake. Instead of memorizing a giant list, focus on understanding the nuances of, well, a few key phrasal verbs, and then try using them naturally in your everyday conversations. Pick ones that resonate with you, ones that you can connect with personally.
So it's more about quality over quantity. I can get behind that. Instead of trying to learn everything at once, maybe I'll choose a handful from the list and really focus on mastering those.
That's a great approach. It's like adding spices to a dish, right? You wouldn't dump the entire spice rack into your food. You choose the ones that, well, they complement the flavors and they enhance the overall taste. Phrasal verbs are kind of similar. They add flavor to your English.
I love that. And speaking of flavors, I noticed our list is kind of organized in a way that reflects the different flavors of our day, from waking up to winding down.
That's a great observation. It's almost like a phrasal verb journey through a typical day.
Exactly. So listeners, buckle up and get ready for a phrasal verb adventure as we explore how these expressions color our everyday lives.
Let's do it. So welcome back to our phrasal verb journey. I think we're ready to dive into a really fun category now.
Okay, hit me.
Phrasal verbs for social situations.
Okay, I'm ready to get social. Phrasal verbs like hang out, catch up.
Oh, the classics. They're so common, right? But let's go a little deeper. Think about those times when you need to, say, gently steer a conversation in a different direction. Like you could say, hey, I wanted to ask you about...
I know, it's so awkward.
It could be a bit formal.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit awkward.
I think you need a softer approach.
Exactly. That's where bring up comes in. Casual.
He'll bring up, yeah.
Natural. It doesn't put anyone on the spot. You're just kind of introducing an idea into the conversation. Like, how often do we do that? Hey, I wanted to bring up that new restaurant you mentioned, or can I bring up something that's been on my mind?
Wow, I use bring up all the time. I never even realized it's whoa, a social lubricant?
It is. It keeps those conversations flowing smoothly. And what's interesting? Phrasal verbs, they often reflect cultural values. Like, in many English-speaking cultures, being too direct, it can be seen as, well, rude. So we use phrasal verbs like bring up to kind of soften the blow.
So this linguistic dance we do,
Yeah.
maintain social harmony.
Exactly. Okay, so we've brought up a new topic. Everyone's engaged. Now it's time to, I don't know, maybe just relax for a bit.
Oh, absolutely. How about chill out?
Oh, chill out, yeah.
Perfect for those moments when you just want to unwind, let go of any stress. It's interesting how this phrasal verb has become so popular lately.
I think it reflects our growing need for downtime.
It does. Self-care.
Self-care.
It's like a reminder, a linguistic reminder to take a break and recharge.
I'm feeling more relaxed already. But eventually, we do have to, shift gears and get back to reality.
To reality, that's right. Is there a phrasal verb for that?
There is. How about focus on? It's like, okay, playtime's over. Let's get down to business.
Oh, right. Focus on, yeah.
The verb of productivity?
Like that mental shift, when we need to concentrate, get things done.
What's interesting about focus on? It suggests a deliberate choice. You're making a conscious decision to direct your attention towards a specific goal. It's not just about working hard. It's about, working smart.
That's a great point. It's like saying, I'm not just going through the motions. I'm actively choosing to prioritize this.
Exactly. And that sense of intentionality, it's so important for achieving our goals in our personal lives, our careers, even just learning English, really.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But let's be honest, even with the best intentions, we hit roadblocks. Those moments when, you just want to throw in the towel.
Of course, give up. Right. Probably the most well-known phrasal verb for that feeling of, defeat. But here's the thing. We don't always have to give in to that feeling, right? In fact, there are phrasal verbs that, suggest the opposite, a sense of resilience and determination.
Oh, okay. Tell me more. Which phrasal verbs?
Well, think about stick with. It implies a commitment to something, even when it gets tough. Or how about push through? It suggests a sense of perseverance, a willingness to overcome obstacles.
Ooh, I love that. It's like a linguistic pep talk.
Yes.
Reminding us that we've got the power to keep going.
And, that's one of the amazing things about language. It can shape our thoughts and influence our actions. So next time you're feeling tempted to give up, Try using a phrasal verb that empowers you to stick with it and push through any difficulties.
Such a powerful message. It's like our list is full of these phrasal verbs, that capture those ups and downs of life, those moments of joy, frustration, connection, even disappointment.
It is. It's all there.
Should we delve into some more emotional phrasal verbs?
Let's explore how phrasal verbs help us express the full spectrum of human experience.
I can't wait. Okay, listeners, be sure to join us for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're back. And I'm ready for more phrasal verb adventures. Last time we talked about using them in social situations, bring up can be a smoother way to, introduce a topic than just blurting something out.
Right. Yeah, it's making me realize how much impact these little combos can have on how we actually communicate.
They really do. It's like they give you a whole toolkit for, expressing yourself in all these nuanced ways. And, life, it throws us curveballs sometimes. Plans change. Things, they don't go as expected.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? There are phrasal verbs for those situations, too.
Okay, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Uh-oh.
Call off, right?
Yeah.
So call off the wedding, call off the meeting, call off the search party when I can't find my keys.
You got it. Call off.
Aw.
It's like that all-purpose phrasal verb for when things just, they aren't happening. And the way we use call off, it can actually tell us a lot about the situation.
How so?
Think about, the difference between calling off a meeting and calling off a search,
Now that you mention it, calling off a meeting sounds kind of routine, maybe even a little bit of a relief. But calling off a search, that feels so much more serious, almost somber.
Exactly. So the phrasal verb, it stays the same, but the context, it adds all these layers of meaning, kind of like those optical illusions where the same image can be seen in two different ways.
Ooh, that's a good analogy. So phrasal verbs are like linguistic chameleons.
I like that. You're right. And speaking of adapting, sometimes when plans get called off, we need to figure out a new course of action. That's another great one. It suggests a process of, problem solving, finding a solution.
Figure out. Oh, I use figure out all the time. It's like my go-to phrase when I'm faced with, any challenge, whether it's figuring out a tricky math problem or figuring out how to assemble a piece of furniture. It always involves a bit of mental wrestling.
And, it doesn't always have to be about solving a problem.
Really?
Sometimes it's about, understanding something, making sense of the world around us. I'm trying to figure out why he said that, or I can't figure out this new phone.
Oh, you're right. Figure out, it can apply to both concrete and an abstract situations.
Exactly. It's about that aha moment when things finally click into place.
Right.
And speaking of those aha moments, sometimes figuring things out, it involves doing a little digging. So investigating. That's where find out comes in.
Find out. Okay, the phrasal verb of detectives and curious minds.
Exactly.
I'm picturing myself with a magnifying glass, hot on the trail of some elusive piece of information.
But it doesn't always have to be about serious investigations. It can be as simple as finding out what's for dinner or finding out what time the movie starts. But there's always that element of discovery, right? Uncovering something new.
It's true. It's making me realize that even the most common phrasal verbs, they have these
hidden depths. They do.
We use them all the time, but we don't often stop to think about the subtle meanings they convey.
It's they're these everyday objects. We take them for granted.
Yeah.
Until we really examine them closely.
So I guess the takeaway here is, pay attention to the phrasal verbs we use and the contexts we use them in. Because there's always more to discover.
Absolutely. The more we explore these nuances, the more we appreciate the richness and expressiveness of, the English language. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our phrasal verb extravaganza.
Yeah, I agree. We've covered so much, from history and origins to practical tips, even a little bit of philosophy along the way.
It has been an incredible journey.
It really has. And a huge thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of phrasal verbs.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed the exploration as much as we have. And, the key to mastering phrasal verbs, it's to embrace the challenge, have fun with them, and keep practicing. The more you use them, the more natural and confident you'll become.
So go forth and conquer those phrasal verbs. We believe in you.
Happy speaking, everyone.